Welcome back, guys. Right now, we're dealing with a president who does what U.S. presidents just do not do. They just don't assert a king-like power over the rule of law by flaunting their pardon power, as we talked about earlier in the show. But they also just don't often behave in a way that punishes our allies and praises our enemies. The president is right now at a summit with our allies as they slam him for his isolationist views, and he slams them back with threats of a trade war. Meanwhile, Mr. Trump is once again praising Russia. He's talking about making North Korea rich if things go well at next week's nuclear summit as well. Joining me now is Jeremy Bash, NBC News national security analyst and former chief of staff at the Pentagon and the CIA. Also the panel, John, Caitlin, and Gabe. Jeremy, welcome to the table, even remotely. What do you think of Russia coming back into the fold and it becoming a G8 again?
Well, Katie, a pillar of Russian foreign policy has been to drive a wedge between the United States and our allies. And that's, I think, exactly what President Trump sort of spoke about today, when he said he'd welcome Russia back into the G8. But that wasn't even the most pro-Russia thing he said. Actually, the most pro-Russia thing he said was his declaration of economic warfare between us and our European allies and us and our NATO allies.
It sounds to me that Donald Trump is trying to formulate a new world order that doesn't like our allies any longer, not a fan of Merkel and May and Trudeau, et cetera, or the EU, really likes Xi Jinping, really likes Vladimir Putin, really likes the King of Saudi Arabia, maybe could really like Kim Jong-un if this summit goes well.
Yeah, and it's not clear exactly what's going on, whether this is just improvisation and he's kind of winging it without preparation, as he's boasted about, standing there getting ready to board Marine One to head out of town. He made these comments. I don't think they were the product of any deliberate strategy, which is actually even more concerning because it shows how hardwired it is into his psyche, into his worldview, that he admires strongmen, that he supports a neo-isolationist policy for the United States, and he buys into Russia's narrative that basically America should not have the strength of its allies around it, and we should do, in effect, what Russia wants done on the world stage.
That is exactly what I was going to ask following what Jeremy was saying. He brought it up. What does it say that Donald Trump just naturally leans towards dictators?
Well, it says exactly what we think it says. It's not exactly promising for the old world order, but in some ways you can say that he's doing some part of what he said he was going to do. He said during the campaign that his foreign policy was going to be America first. What his allies are trying to do now in Canada is convince him that his conception of America first, that does rely on these strong men who are not our allies, in fact puts America last. And what's very clear, though, is that he's not buying any of this because he just doesn't seem to respect these people that he's talking to, whether Trudeau or others.
Give him the benefit of the doubt. Is there some method to this madness?
Okay, so he is upsetting the apple cart. He's playing 52 pickup. He's throwing all the cards of the international order in the air and seeing whether at the end, when all the chaos is over and everybody, it can somehow be reassembled into something that he likes better or is better than America. That would be the defense. It's not much of a defense, but it is the defense, and all this is complicated by he's saying nice things about Russia in this G7 run-up, right? But the story of the last year and a half has been Trump tightening restrictions on Russia, imposing tough sanctions, agreeing to allow the sale of offensive weaponry to Ukrainians who are fighting him, fighting Putin. The policies have not been pro-Russian. That's why this seems improvisatory to me and weird, and it's all sort of oh, you want me to go to a meeting and sit there like a nice grown-up at the table. That's not who I am. I'm just going to make trouble because that's who I am.
But why does he only make trouble with our allies? That is the question. It's not like he's going over to China and making trouble at meetings there. He's not making trouble with Saudi Arabia. He's not making trouble with Vladimir Putin. He's only making trouble with the people who are on. But he's
been making trouble with Putin for a year and a half. That's just not right. He has. And he's trying to impose tariffs on China.
Jeremy wants
If I could just respond to John, actually the policies are very pro-Russian. I mean, tearing apart the alliance, the transatlantic alliance between the United States and our Western European allies is exactly Vladimir Putin's playbook. Number two is we've made a decision to leave Assad in power. That is exactly what Russia wants. And I would even argue that leaving the Iran deal redounded to the benefit of Russia. Why do I say that? Because it exacerbates tensions between the United States and our European allies. And so there are, across many fronts, America is now doing, in effect, what Russia wants America to be doing.
Are you saying it cancels out the sanctions?
Am I saying that?
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying that the strain that leaving the Iran deal puts between the United States and its European allies is exactly what Vladimir Putin's Russia wants to happen.
And when it comes to Mexico and Canada, I mean, the president has been talking for 30 years, right, about this trade deficit, right? The problem is now it meets the reality of what this actually means, right? So he's talked about, I want to get away from all these, multinational deals and just have these bilateral trade deals. Fine, but we haven't seen the result of what that deal making would be, right? So he's lashing out against Trudeau, lashing out against those. They're meanwhile, threatening retaliatory measures that could hit Trump's base of support
And Joni
in key
Ernst
areas.
in Iowa today was saying, listen, if you're going to close those markets for us, you got to find us some new ones.
Right. So he hasn't explained, right, what the next step is. He didn't want to even go to the G7 or
G6, whatever you want to call it now. You know what's interesting, and our producer, Jesse Bergman, found this. Donald Trump is liking, well, he likes to have his cake and eat it too. He's saying we're getting ripped off. Also, as he's arguing, he's making it rain. Watch.
Our economy is absolutely booming. Best it's ever been.
$7 trillion in worth we've created since the elections. That's a number that nobody would have thought was possible.
We have gotten the best financial numbers, the best economic numbers, the best numbers on unemployment and employment that we've ever had. Record numbers at every outpost. Lowest unemployment numbers we've had.
Jump ball. Someone make sense of this for me.
Well, this is exactly what Republicans on Capitol Hill have been saying. Look, the economy is great. Why are you trying to kind of initiate this trade war? They really haven't had much power, though, to rein him in on this, even though there have been some that have. But they're not going to pass anything to kind of curb his power on this.
And I just think the broader point is that this network of alliances, this international order we've had since the end of World War II, that has redounded to the benefit of the United States. And so for us to kind of tear it up, undermine it, really, I think, hurts our national security and is exactly what has been in the Russian playbook since the dawn of the Cold War.
Yeah, but it's not about the Russians here. He has said since the early 1980s that we make stupid deals. We made stupid deals with Russia. He could solve the nuclear war problem between the United States and the Soviet Union, and that NAFTA was bad and all this is bad. Now he's president and the economy is working, and he is not willing, as Caitlin said, he's not willing to sort of call an audible and say,
hey,
we don't really need to make all these changes because what I'm doing is working. So he's on the one hand saying what I'm doing is working. On the other hand, he's saying we're a poor country now and we need to, take everything back.
Part of it is because he has to trash everything that came before him in order to make himself look like he is the one that's fixed everything. So he has to turn back what the administration implemented, because if he doesn't do that, he's tacitly saying that they did a good job. He needs to be the one that's responsible for everything that's happening right now.
And I think that's why, actually, you see a lot of discomfort among Republicans on Capitol Hill these days. If we want to look at this from a domestic political perspective, this is a classic problem of coherence that parties always have when it comes to midterms. That you say, the other guys are doing everything terribly, but things are going great under us, not that we've changed anything. This is a problem that parties have been dealing with forever, and Republicans are trying to deal with it now.
Jeremy Bash, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your expertise. Good to see you. Panel, stay with us.
Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Meet the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.